Good afternoon, gentlemen. Today we're looking at the Headway Plus book, and we're looking at if clauses. My name's Mr. Paul Anthony, and I'm delivering these demonstration lessons so you can get an idea about Al Jazeera International Academy and the books that are being used here, for example, the Headway books. And as I say, we're looking at if clauses. Today's demonstration lesson is all about travelling, really. So let's get into it. So planning a trip. So what's a trip? A trip is a journey. When I was at school, we had a school trip into London, and they took us along the River Thames, which is the river that goes all the way through London. And so this was a trip to London, because I actually lived in Hertfordshire, and so we travelled by coach into London. Now, coach is not like a football coach. A coach is like a bus. Okay, so we have a different terminology for coach. We have the football coach, who trains the football players, and we have the other coach, which is very similar to a bus. And so we have coaches and we have buses. And they're very similar. So we took the coach, I suppose you could say the bus, into London, and then we went on a boat. And we sailed along the River Thames on a boat, and it was most of the children from our class, my classmates. I think there was about 20 of us out of a possible 30. Anyway, so that's a trip. When you go on a journey somewhere, like a school trip. You go to a particular place with the school. That's a trip. Time and conditional clauses. Well, let's have a look, first of all, at conditionals. I found a cup. Now, there you can see it, I'll put it there. Now you can see it. Not there. Can't see it there, see it here. Not there, here. So, this is it. If So the conditional clauses, we use the if word for suppositions, for example, and also for possibilities. Suppositions, possibilities. So first we'll look at possibility. For example, if I drop the glass, it's a cup. If I drop the cup, it will break. Maybe. But there's a possibility that if I drop the glass, it might hit the edge. Here's the edge. And it might just go, and there's a possibility that maybe it won't break. Maybe it will just go, oh, it didn't break. So this is where the word if comes into it. If I drop the cup, it will break. Well, 95%, yes. But there's that 5% where perhaps it will not break. So that's what we call the possibility when it comes to the conditional. So what kind of formula do we have for that? If I drop, so we have if plus I, so that's the subject, plus drop. That's the past. Or is it? No, that's the present, isn't it? So we've got if plus present, if I drop the glass or the cup, so that's the noun, or I suppose we could say the object, because the cup is the object of the sentence. So if I drop the cup, it will break. So we use will for the future. So it's if plus present plus future. If plus present plus future. If, drop, will. And that's called the first conditional. Okay? Now, the conditionals are very, very important. Once you understand the various conditionals, once you understand the conditionals, your English will improve so much. So it's vitally important that you take notice of English lessons to do with conditionals and the if clauses. Okay? So, there's Chris and his friend Scott. They are planning a trip. Now we're going to complete the sentences with phrases in the box below. This should be interesting. Let's see if we can do this. Number 1. We're travelling round the world. And that says see. Before we go to university. So we are, that's a contraction of we are. We're travelling round the world before we go to university. So number 2, we're, as in we are, we're going to leave as soon as we have enough money. We're going to leave as soon as we have enough money. So to leave is to depart. We're going to leave as soon as. As soon as means when that moment comes that we have money, when we have enough money. For example, I don't have much money, but I have some money, and I have enough for my needs. I have enough money for what I want. I don't need to be a millionaire to live. So I have enough money. I have sufficient money. So sufficient money means enough money for my needs, my everyday needs. And it doesn't have to be much. So I don't have much money, but I have enough. The next one, 3, something we're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef. Let's come down here. When we're in Australia, we're, as in we are, we're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef. When? When we use for time. Do you know what? I have a problem with watches. Every time I buy a watch, it breaks. It doesn't matter, cheap, expensive, in between, they break on me. I don't know why. I'll give you an example. I bought a watch because I wanted to know the time. It was quite a nice watch. I had this watch for a few months, and then it was a gold watch. It wasn't cheap. Then the pin fell out. You know, the winder? That fell out. So I bought another watch because I needed to know the time. And when you need to know the time, you buy a watch, don't you? So the second watch I bought, and you know the glass? The glass fell out. But I needed to know the time. And when you need to know the time, you buy a watch, don't you? So I bought another watch. Now this was a really good watch. It cost me like half a month's salary. It was an expensive watch for me. The battery stopped working after 1 week. I can't believe it. But when I thought about this, I thought, well, the battery stopped working after 1 week because nobody bought the watch. Probably the watch, which I needed for time, was in the window maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years because it wasn't a cheap watch, so people didn't buy it. And I bought it, and as soon as I bought it, the battery stopped working. So now I have to buy a new battery because I can't afford a new watch. So we use when for time. We are, we're. This is a contraction of we are. When we're in Australia, we're going to learn to scuba dive. Scuba dive is when they put this thing here, and it's got a tube, and you swim in the water. And you can breathe under the water, and you can see all the fish swimming around. That's the verb to scuba dive. When we're in Australia, we're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef. This is the coral reef. It's off of, I think it's off of Bondi Beach, actually. I could be wrong about that, don't quote me. I think that's where it is. And the Great Barrier Reef has all these corals. Corals are like rocks with live plants growing on them. And they're very rare. And so they have this like thousands of coral reefs. And this is the Great Barrier Reef. It's all combined of all these thousands of plants growing on the rocks. And they're all different colours and different species. It's fantastic, it's wonderful. Let's go here. Number 4. Will, as in we will. Now with will, we use will for the future. And you can contract will with anything. But sometimes they become something of a tongue twister. A tongue twister is when you have difficulty speaking. Like this is tongue, and twist, this is twist. For example, let's say the door will be the same colour tomorrow. That's an easy one. The door will be, so door, D, double O, R, then you put the apostrophe and double L. The same as we do here. We will, so it's W-E, apostrophe, double L. But with door, D, double O-R, apostrophe, double L. So the door will be becomes the door will be. Imagine that. The door will be the same colour tomorrow. It's quite difficult, isn't it? Most difficult if they end in L. If the noun or the verb, any word, if it ends in L, then you have to put the apostrophe double L for will. So the pencil will be becomes the pencil will be. Imagine that. The pencil will be on the table tomorrow. That's a tongue twister, isn't it? So, we will. Now we know we can contract with any word with the future, with will. We will becomes we'll. Something, we'll, look after. To look after is to take care of. When I was a child, I was knocked over by a car and I fractured my right femur. But my mother looked after me. She took care of me, as did the nurses and doctors in the hospital. So to look after, to take care of. We'll look after each other. Each other is for 2 people, only 2. One another is for more than 2 people. Okay, so if you have a lot of friends, you can say, we look after one another. But if it's just 2 people, you can say, we look after each other. Okay. So, let's see if we can find it out. So, here's our if clause. If we get ill, we'll look after each other. This is the first conditional because we have if plus present. If plus present, get will for the future. So it's if plus present plus future. So now we know this is the first conditional. Let's go down to the next one. Something, we're going to the USA. So here we are. After we leave Australia, so let's imagine we're in Australia, having a fantastic holiday in Australia, then it's time to leave. And then after we leave Australia, we're, as in we are, we're going to the USA. After we leave Australia, we're going to the USA. Yes. The next one. We can stay with my American cousins. Can expresses ability. We can do this. We have the ability to do this. We can do that. We have the ability to do that. Also, can. You can use it in fast speaking and slow speaking. For example, I'll give you an example. We can drive. We can drive cars. But if we speak fast, we say, we can drive cars. So can becomes could. We can drive cars. We can drive cars. So depending on how you speak, you can use can either fast or slow. Let's move on. We can stay with my American cousins while we're in Los Angeles. We're in Los Angeles. So it means at that time, at that moment in time. So we can stay with my American cousins while, I've lost it now, while we're in Los Angeles. Okay. So the next one, maybe I should write them on there. Yes, I think I will. Never mind. So, we know number one is C. We're going to leave as soon as we have enough money. So that's F. Number two is F. Let's put it there. 3. We're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef. So that's while we're in, no, that's not it, Australia. When we're in Australia, we're going to learn to scuba dive. So that's E. So put that one here, E, put it over here. That's for the scuba diving one. Number 4, so that's if we get ill, we'll look after each other. So that's number 4 is B. So put B there. And number 5, I don't know why it's coming down so low like that. Let's put that B to be here. That's better. We're in the USA. What did I say? Oh, colour's changing. You see that? So I have to go. After we leave Australia, we're going to the USA. So H is 5. Put H there. We can stay with my American cousins while we're in Los Angeles. We can stay with my American cousins while we're in Los Angeles. So that's A is here. So put A. Maybe if I go like that, it should come out. That's A. That's supposed to be A. Our parents will be worried. Let's see. If we don't keep in touch, let's put that there for a second. So, our parents will be worried. So we have will for the future. If we don't keep in touch. So we have if, and is do in the negative, do not keep in touch. So we have if plus present plus future, and with will. It doesn't matter which way you do it. You can have if plus present plus future, or you can begin with the future. Okay? So it doesn't matter which way you do it. Now, as you can see, this is the other way around. Our parents will be worried if we don't keep in touch. That's G. Let's put G there. It's here. We'll stay in the States until our visas run out. That doesn't mean they're going to run out of the room, because a visa cannot run. And it means when the visa expires, when there's an expiry date. So as soon as it comes up to the expiry date, then they'll return to their own country. So it's up until that moment. So we'll stay in the States until our visas run out. So that's D. H is D. Let's put D there. Okay, D. Well, I think we ought to check and then double check and listen. So that's what we're going to do right now. So there we are. We're travelling round the world before we go to university. I think I might have missed that one. Never mind. Number 2. We're going to leave as soon as we have enough money. When we're in Australia, we're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef. Number 4, if we get ill, we'll look after each other. Number 5, after we leave Australia, we're going to the USA. Number 6, we can stay with my American cousins while we're in Los Angeles. Number 7, our parents will be worried if we don't keep in touch. We'll stay in the States until our visas run out. Oh, here's a couple of things I didn't mention. The city of Los Angeles comes from the Spanish language, and it means the city of angels. That's what it means. Keep in touch, it means in contact by phone or email, on the internet. So they have to keep contact with their family. In other words, keep in touch with their families. So now we're going to listen and check.
Unit 9. Tape script 9.1. 1.
We're travelling round the world before we go to university.
2.
We're going to leave as soon as we have enough money.
3.
When we're in Australia, we're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef.
4.
If we get ill, we'll look after each other.
5.
After we leave Australia, we're going to the USA.
6.
We can stay with my American cousins while we're in Los Angeles.
7.
Our parents will be worried if we don't keep in touch.
8.
We'll stay in the States until our visas run out.
Let's listen again.
Unit 9. Tape script 9.1. 1.
We're travelling round the world before we go to university.
2.
We're going to leave as soon as we have enough money.
3.
When we're in Australia, we're going to learn to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef.
4.
If we get ill, we'll look after each other.
5.
After we leave Australia, we're going to the USA.
6.
We can stay with my American cousins while we're in Los Angeles.
7.
Our parents will be worried if we don't keep in touch.
8.
We'll stay in the States until our visas run out.
Did you get them? I think you did. Now we're going to look at the grammar spot. Number 1, underline the words in the box that introduce the clauses. Example, while. So this introduces a clause. While. Let's have a look. What else? While, before, until, as soon as, after. They introduce a clause. And also we have the if clauses. Let's go up here. A clause is a part of a sentence. Okay? Which tense are all the verbs in the box? They refer to do they refer to the present or the future? Let's look at that again. Which tense are all the verbs in the box? Do they refer to the present or the future? Let's have a look. While we are, this is present. Get, this is present. Go, present. Run, present. Are, present. Have, present. Keep, present. Leave, present. So they're all in the present. All the clauses are in the present. What are the different future forms in Chris and Scott's sentences? Let's have a look. Are travelling, this is present continuous. Am is are plus ing, present continuous. We are going. Am is are, ing, present continuous. We are going, present continuous. Will look after. So here we have the future. This is a future here. Will, we use will for the future. We are going, present continuous. Can, stay. So this is can, this is in the present. Present will be, this is the future. We use will for the future. Will, this is the future. We use will for the future. So future contraction, we will becomes we'll. Okay, let's move down here now. What's the difference between these sentences? Which one is sure? Which one is possible? So sure, this is definite. Okay, definite. If it's definite, we can say it's for sure, it is definite. Which one is possible? So possibility. So we have the future in the present plus future. This is a possibility. Okay. Let's go back. I'll give you an example. Let's go back. If we don't do this, this will happen. If we don't do that, that will happen. But it's not definite. It's not definite. It's a possibility. Whereas sure, the word sure, is a definite. It means definitely this will happen. Whereas this means it's possible, it might happen. Maybe 95%. So it's a possibility, not definite. And when, we use when for time. When I get home, I'll have something to eat. This is for sure, this is definite. When I get home, I will do this, I will have something to eat. Possibility, so we use if. In the conditionals, we have possibilities. If there isn't any food, I will get a pizza. It doesn't mean that there is or isn't, but it's looking at the possibility that there might not be any food. Okay? And we use any in the negative. Okay? Isn't, so there's a negative, and we use any food. We use some in the positive. When, as soon as. When I get home, I will play with my child. I will play football. As soon as this lesson finishes, I will play football. Or I am going to play football. If I get this job, I will buy a new car. Let's go here. After I leave university, After I leave university, I will become a doctor. While I'm in Dubai, I will go shopping. Before I get too old, I will travel across Asia, for example. Hey, he looks like me. So let's listen and compare my answers to what is on the recording. Let's open the script. Let's listen.
Tape script 9.2. 1.
When I get home, I'm going to play with my son in the garden.
2.
As soon as this lesson finishes, I'm going to play football.
3.
If I get this job, I'll buy a car.
4.
After I leave university, I'm going to graduate and get a job.
5.
While I'm in Dubai, I'll do some shopping.
6.
I'm going to travel the world before I get too old.
Let's listen again.
Tape script 9.2. 1.
When I get home, I'm going to play with my son in the garden.
2.
As soon as this lesson finishes, I'm going to play football.
3.
If I get this job, I'll buy a car.
4.
After I leave university, I'm going to graduate and get a job.
5.
While I'm in Dubai, I'll do some shopping.
6.
I'm going to travel the world before I get too old.
Did you get them? I'm sure you did. Then we have what if. Look at these hopes for the future. Make sentences using if followed by will. So we're looking at the first conditional. For example, if I don't go out so much, I'll do more work. If I do more work, we could say, I'll stay in, or I'll not go out so much. It's a bit unusual. Let's have a look. If I don't go out so much, I'll do more work. If I pass my exams, I'll go to university. If I study medicine, I'll become a doctor. If I become a doctor, I'll earn a good salary. So all of these are joined together. So let's look at that again. If I don't go out so much, I'll do more work. And if I do more work, I'll pass my exams. And if I pass my exams, I'll go to university. And if I go to university, I'll study medicine. And if I study medicine, I'll become a doctor. And if I become a doctor, I'll earn a good salary. Now let's look at the other one. If I stop eating chocolate, I'll have more money. And if I'll have more money, I'll save some every week. And if I save some every week, I'll be rich when I'm 30. And if I'm rich when I'm 30, I'll have my own business. And if I have my own business, I'll make a lot of money. And if I make a lot of money, I'll retire when I'm 40. And that brings me, or us, to the end of our demonstration lesson, all about going places from the Headway book, here at Al Jazeera International Academy. And if you study these Headway books, and if you study English every day, try to build up your vocabulary, at least 8 words a day, and how you can use those 8 words. By the end of the month, you'll have a lot of new vocabulary, and by the end of the year, you'll be able to use your knowledge of English much more comprehensively. And also, I think you'll be able to speak a lot more fluently too. So, I'm wishing you all the best with your English language studies, and maybe hope to see you at some time in the not too distant future. Thank you very much, and it's goodbye from me, Mr. Paul Anthony, here in Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much.